Welcome to the Huggadrum podcast, a life with drums and drumming. I am your host, Angus McCurrach, and you're very welcome. And now, let the drumming begin. Yes, it's the Huggadrum podcast, your rhythmic respite from reality. Fun with drums, including
Drumming joke of the week.
The anagram, drumagram.
and drums for life, well-being and drumming.
And now, here is your host from the Shedio. It's himself.
Yes, it's myself, and welcome to episode 9. Episode 9 of the Huggadrum HuggCast. We're one away. That would be 2. We're one away from double figures. Isn't that fantastic? So, welcome to you all, and especially if you have never listened to this HuggCast before, you are in for a treat. And this week we have got, a few interesting things for you. We are excited because we have now booked a venue for our first community drum circle since lockdown. So next month we are holding our first community drum circle, and we'll have some more news of that later on. But on that note, I have been doing a bit of research recently into noise levels at community drum circles. So we're going to have a wee look at the types of noise levels you get at a drum circle, and interestingly, comparing it to other types of noise that you get. So listen to that, and something might ring a decibel for you. But we are going to kick off with a tribute to a guest to the northeast of Scotland at this time of year. Well, that's not really true to say that they're guests. They are entitled to be here as much as anybody else. And they are puffins. Yes, in this part of northeast of Scotland, we're extremely lucky that puffins come to nest every year. And they are here at the moment, with their little clown faces on their divers' feet. A couple of years ago, I was inspired by these little guys to write a wee song for them called The Puffins Walk. And a friend and colleague of mine, Monica Carey, who is a photographer, she put some of her photographs of the puffins together with the song. So we're going to kick off with that. However, we also have Drummer's Joke of the Week coming up, and the Huggadrum anagram, or the Huggagram. Huggagram? Huggagram. Huggagram? Duggagram. I think I'm losing the power of speech, so let's just crack on with the Puffin Walk.
They fly across the sea to
hope you enjoyed that wee tribute to the Puffins at the Bullers of Buchan in Aberdeenshire. Fantastic little guys. Well, now we're going to have a wee talk from, well, actually, it's me. This is a wee film that I made, 18 months ago now, before lockdown really began in earnest. And it was just to remind people about cleaning drums. And it actually is the first time, I think, on this HuggCast that I've been involving my friend George. So here's a wee talk about how we clean our drums before and after every drum circle.
Hello, and welcome to this special edition of Huggadrum. I am your facilitator, and this is my assistant, George. Say hello, George. Thanks, George. Now, George and I have got a special message for you, and it runs for everyone, kids, adults, and it's about keeping our hands clean. Now, there's a lot in the news at the moment about this virus that's going around, and one of the ways it can spread is when people get the virus on their hands. Maybe they rub their face, touch their face, and they can leave it on other surfaces. Now, when we're playing with drums, you will be finding that you're using a drum that somebody else has used maybe the day before, or it could be even at the same session. So, let's be careful. So, my tip to you is, get yourself something that you know will get rid of the germs. Now, it doesn't have to be expensive. You can get rubbing alcohol from the chemist, and that will get rid of most of the germs. This is my special drum steriliser, and after every session, all I do is I give the drums a scoosh with this, and my pouch here, I have a cloth, give the drums a wipe, and that makes sure that when the next person comes to play, the drum will be clean. Let's stay healthy out there, but remember, enjoy yourselves. Oh, and I nearly forgot. George reminded me. It's not just the drums that need to be cleaned from time to time. Now, actually, George will tell you, pigs are actually very clean animals, and you know, they do look after themselves. So, and they're very intelligent animals. I wouldn't have somebody work with me if they weren't intelligent. So, George leaves it clean as well. Remember, you've got any toys and things at home, other kids are sharing them, other adults might be sharing your toys, make sure they're clean. See, I like to keep up to. Goodbye from Huggadrum, stay safe.
So that was our wee film about keeping your drums clean, and just showing you the lengths that we go to make sure that you're all healthy and safe when you come to one of our drum circles. And there are some coming up. I have got a drum circle in Aberdeenshire in Ellen on the 17th of July at 1 o'clock. If you want any details about that, go and have a look at the Huggadrum website or look at the Facebook page. So that's the 17th of July in Ellen, Aberdeenshire at 1 o'clock, and tickets are on sale now.
Drumming joke of the week.
Sorry, I didn't realise you were there, ready for the drummer's joke of the week. Well, as you can probably tell, this one involves a moothie, or a mouth organ, for those of you not of a Scottish persuasion. Now, let me take you back to the 1970s. I used to spend a lot of time in Toronto, in Canada, with my lovely sister and her family. And one year I was over there, and my brother-in-law, Bob, he said to me, "You will have heard of Roy Young." And I had. Now, those of you who are huge, massive Beatles fans will know the name Roy Young. Roy Young was a musician, a keyboard player and a singer who was performing in and around Hamburg in Germany in the early 60s, just around the same time as the Fab Four, or the Beatles, were playing in Germany, in Hamburg. Now, the Beatles' first ever professional recording was in Hamburg with a singer called Tony Sheridan, and famously out of that group of recordings came the song My Bonnie, which is kind of what sparked the whole Beatles revolution. But Roy Young was a keyboard player on those sessions, and if you listen to the recordings, which are readily available, you will actually hear him being referred to at one point by Tony Sheridan. Here's a little bit of Roy Young. So imagine how, delighted I was, excited and delighted to meet Roy Young, because he was invited for dinner. He was a client of Bob's, my brother-in-law, and he came. And I spent an entire evening listening to the anecdotes and the stories and, so many interesting things about Roy's experiences in Germany. And according to his website, and this is something that Roy said to me too, he was actually offered a position as a Beatle by Brian Epstein, the Beatles' manager, but he was contracted to work in Hamburg for 2 years and couldn't take up the offer. Well, that was Roy. Now, the reason I'm telling you this is I had the opportunity one night to actually play with Roy, and I was playing the mouth organ, he was playing the keyboard, and I was playing the mouth organ, and I was sitting behind my drums. I had one of these metal frames that go around your neck, which allowed me to play the mouth organ and the drums at the same time. But then something terrible happened. Halfway through the second verse of Bee-Bop-A-Lula, Bee-Bop-A-Lula, she's my baby, you know the one, I breathed in suddenly in the wrong place, and my moothie went sliding down and got stuck in my throat. Well, that might sound funny to you. And no, every time I tried to speak, I did not play B flat. No, that's not that kind of joke. This was very serious. I could breathe. I sounded a bit wheezy, right enough, but I was wheezing in tune. I was rushed to an ambulance waiting outside and strapped to a stretcher, and I began my journey across metropolitan Toronto to the hospital. And when I got there, I was given a general anaesthetic. And that's really all I can remember. But no, that's not the end of the joke. I woke up the next morning and turned to look at the side of the bed, and there lying on the dressing table was my mouth organ, my moothie. And I was just lying there, and in came the doctor, and she said to me,
"Well, Angus, you've done okay. We managed to remove the moothie from you, and there's no adverse effects. And the moothie is also in a very good condition."
and I was so grateful. I was so eternally grateful. What a fantastic outcome. But she said,
The unusual thing is, I have never, ever had to remove a mouth organ from somebody's throat.
I said, well, I can't imagine it's that common. It's not really an occurrence that happens every day, to be honest. I'm actually a drummer, so I'm not used to playing the mouth organ. That could have been a factor that led to my downfall in terms of sucking in the mouth organ. And she said,
Yes, but yesterday morning, a woman was brought in with exactly the same thing. Now, in my 20 years as a doctor, I have never had to remove a mouth organ from anybody's throat. Yet yesterday you came in, but before you, 12 hours before, a woman came in with exactly the same thing.
and I said, that would have been a harmonica.
Drumming joke of the week.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that wee joke. One of my favourites, and there's another cracker coming up. But it does remind me of the wee one about what you get if you drop a piano down a mine shaft. A flat minor. Anyway, thank you for that. So, I'm going to talk a wee bit about noise. Drummers can be noisy characters. Drums are quite loud. Although obviously if you're playing with a band, sometimes the drummer struggles to get heard with all these noisy guitarists and bass players and whatever else that's going on. But noise is important because noise can affect your hearing and it can permanently damage your hearing. And I was asked an interesting question this week by one of our drumagram fans. And the question was, how noisy is a drum circle? So the situation is, they want to host a drum circle, and they've asked if Huggadrum can do that for them. But the venue has asked what the noise levels are. Now, normally that's not such a big issue, but certainly in hotels, where people are maybe trying to get to sleep in their hotel rooms, or maybe having conversations, maybe business meetings, that sort of thing, if there's a conference going on, noise can become a factor. So I thought, what an interesting question. I've never heard that before. And what was said to me was they're asking whether it will be within the acceptable levels of 45 decibels. So speed is measured in miles per hour, distance is measured in kilometres or metres, and the measurement for noise levels is decibels. And we're not going into great detail about that because it's an exponential scale. Now, you don't need to understand too much about that, except the way that works is if something is twice as loud as something else, that doesn't mean you get a double number. So if you walk a mile and then you walk the same thing again, obviously you've walked 2 miles. You just double it up, but it doesn't work that way with decibels. So just keep that in your head when we're talking about this. So in other words, if something like a conversation with someone or a noise that you might find in an office, just a normal background level, would be about 45 decibels. Now, if it was twice as much as that, twice as loud, it's not 45 decibels. It becomes a higher number. So just remember that. Now, we're not going to get bogged down in the technical detail, but the important thing is, at the beginning of every drum circle that I have, I always check out whether anyone needs to borrow a pair of ear defenders. You know, these headphone type things that can block out noise for people. And sometimes people would actually like to take part, but because of their response to noise, maybe they just don't like the loud noise, or maybe it affects them in a different way, they would prefer to have the ear defenders on. So I always offer that. Now, but the question was, how loud is a drum circle? So let's just start off with some common things. I've got in front of me here, Know Your Noise. It's a leaflet that's been produced, and it just gives you an idea of the sort of noise ratings. At the very bottom is rustling of leaves. The rustling of leaves. So if you can hear the rustling of leaves, that's about 10 decibels. Okay, 10 decibels. And believe it or not, the next one up is a whisper. So a whisper's louder than rustling of leaves. That comes in about 25 decibels. We can have a competition, see who can guess the loudness of things. Anyway, light rain. We listened to the noise of light rain recently. You don't get much light rain in Scotland. It tends to be the heavier kind. But anyway, light rain is about 40 decibels. Okay, so you're with me so far. And a quiet office is louder than your light rain. A quiet office is about 50 decibels, with a normal conversation being about 60. So that just gives you an idea. So when we're wandering around in normal life, nothing's, there's no loud music, there's no banging, there's nobody outside drilling the roads. You're probably working within an environment between sort of 30 to 60 decibels, so that's a very healthy range. Turn on the vacuum cleaner or flush the toilet, things get a bit noisier. So, a vacuum cleaner and the flushing of a toilet, 70 decibels. Okay, 70 decibels for flushing of a toilet. Somebody using a handheld sander, so that's one of these electric sanders, goes up to 100 decibels. So it gives you a sense of loudness, I suppose, if you could imagine somebody, someone else in the house perhaps using an electric sander, and you know what kind of noise that is. Now your jackhammers, these things that mainly guys, sometimes women, when they're building roads or mending roads, they've got this sort of pneumatic drill. It's annoying, but it's also very loud. It's 125 decibels approximately. Now, you're maybe saying to yourself, but where are the drums in all of this? Well, we're just getting there, okay? So, the live rock band, if you've got a gig to see a band and it's got a big PA, drums, bass, electric guitars, everything's all amplified, you're looking at 130 decibels. 130 decibels, and that is beginning to get into the range where it can start to damage your hearing. So that's a kind of a range where you could probably tolerate it for a while, but then you wouldn't want to be exposed to it constantly. In fact, you wouldn't want to be exposed to it constantly. And if you were in a working environment where you were exposed to that level of noise, constantly, you'd be well within your rights to walk away from that job, because they wouldn't be complying with regulations. Now, going all the way up, we can go up to 145 decibels. Fireworks. Imagine fireworks going off. A fighter jet launching, 150 decibels, and a shotgun blast, 160. Now that's when you're standing close to it. At the peak of this particular scale that we've got a rocket launch, which for many of us that makes that is 180 decibels. So, remembering what I said about the scale not being as straightforward as, well, if you double the noise of a welder, you get a rocket launcher. No, it doesn't work like that. But essentially, the louder you get, obviously the higher the decibel range. So just remember, the lowest one on this scale is rustling leaves at 10, and a rocket launcher is 180. So it just shows you the difference. But with all my rabbiting on about the scales, let's go back to the original question. Let's go back to that. What is the level of a drum circle? Well, these days it's fairly easy to measure. You can get apps on your phone that allow you to measure decibels. But someone in the States did it recently in a conference where there was 100 drummers playing. And they measured the range, and it was round about 100 to 120 decibels. So not quite as loud as a jackhammer and not as loud as a live rock band, but still pretty loud. So if you're looking at a drum circle that's maybe got 20, 30 people in it, I estimate that you're probably looking at a range of between 90 and 100 decibels. And that is at a level where if you're exposed to that for a huge length of time, it can affect your hearing. So just bear that in mind when you're attending a drum circle. And that's part of the reason why we do offer ear defenders for people. But I just thought that was a very interesting question. It's something I'd never been asked before. How loud is a drum circle? Well, it's loud. You will hear it. But remember that in venues where you're having a drum circle, it could be a hall or it could be in a hotel function suite, that often these places will have noise insulation built into them. As you can imagine, a lot of these places will be having rock bands or wedding bands or all sorts of entertainment, discos, for example, that will be up there in the 150 decibel range, and they have to have noise insulation to protect the community around them and anybody else staying in the hotel. Anyway, that's how loud a drum circle is.
Drummer's Rant.
Ooh, I have avoided having a rant about this topic for quite some time. But it's got to the point where the lid on the pot is beginning to shift with the boiling steam underneath. It's rattling. My lid is rattling. And it's related to COVID. Yes, it's related to COVID. Now, it's about football. I have never been very good at football. If you remember previous HuggCasts, we spoke about that with Ewan Mackay. Ewan and myself were never very good at football and probably more likely to score for the other team. But it's partly because, well, we never liked it. I think in life, some people are sporty, some people are musical, some people are both. I'm kind of more of the musical type of person. And it's always annoyed me that football in Scotland has such a central role in our communities. Now that's all right. I mean, there are things that my community takes very seriously and my country takes very seriously that I'm not particularly bothered about, and that's fine. But it's when it begins to intrude on my daily life and my health and well-being. So, I remember when I first started working many years ago in an office, if something like Wimbledon was on, the tennis, or football was on, big things, European matches, the World Cup, that sort of thing, the staff would get offered time off to go and watch games. Now, I wanted to go and see Led Zeppelin at Nebworth in 1979. I would never get time off to go and do that. And at the moment, the situation is this. There are lots of people in the United Kingdom taking huge risks, not only with their own health, but with other people's health, because they want to go and watch 22 guys kicking an inflated plastic ball around a pitch. That's basically what it boils down to. And football has been given preferential treatment above all sorts of other activities, even things like play parks for kids, nurseries. Parents are not allowed to go and watch their kids at school or on sports days. Yet thousands of big hairy Scotsmen seem to be able to go down to London to watch a football match. What's that all about? It annoys me. And, well, it could affect me as well. If I end up catching something because a big hairy Scotsman has wandered down to London, not even to go to watch the football or to see it live, but to watch it on a TV screen. That is infuriating. So, come on, let's be fair about this. Let's put football where it belongs.
Drummer's rant.
So that was this week's rant. It's good to have a rant. You should all try having a rant. You'll feel a lot better afterwards. Now it's time for the drumagram. So, the answer to last week's drumagram was hi-hat pedal. Hi-hat pedal. So, for those of you non-kit drummers out there, the hi-hat are the two cymbals that go up and down. You know, and what makes them go up and down is a pedal that's usually played with the left foot if you're right-handed. Or it could be your right foot if you're left-handed. And it makes the cymbals go up and down. It's the hi-hat pedal. So, this week's drumagram is bed lice. Bed lice. And the clue is it's related to something else that we've talked about in this HuggCast. Bed lice. So, let's have your answers. You can send them to HuggCast@Huggadrum.com, and there's a prize for the first correct answer that arrives. So, as I said in the introduction to this HuggCast, Huggadrum are able to go out and start offering community drum circles again. And the first one is coming up next month in July, 17th of July. It's a Saturday, and it's the 17th, and it's between 1 and 2 p.m, so it goes on for an hour. All drums are provided, and they're all cleaned and sterilised beforehand and afterwards. And we also provide sterilised ear defenders for people that want to take part and really can't handle the noise level. And that's fine. We sit down playing the drums, unless you're playing a set of our congas, in which case you may be standing up. But sitting down means anyone can participate. So if you're in a wheelchair, or just don't feel like you want to bother standing up, even though you can, you'll be sitting down. And carers always come free, so if you need your carer to push you around, or for any other reason, they come free. So the tickets are on sale. You can get them from the Huggadrum website, and you can also get them through a Meetup, the Meetup app, for those of you that use that. Now remember, we also, through hand-picked drums, can offer frame drum kits. So that's kits where you can actually make your own frame drum at home. And they come with full instructions, and there's even online tuition available if necessary. So you can build your own frame drum at home. Comes with a beautiful recycled wooden frame. It comes with the goat skin or a calf skin, and all the leather thong that you need to tie your drum together, and full instructions. So it's a great present for somebody. You can also buy the ready-made frame drums from us. Just have a look at huggadrumshop.com. That's a huggadrumshop.com. Fantastic. This week's podcast, as usual, has been partly sponsored by Buchan Counselling. Buchan Counselling is based in Peterhead in Aberdeenshire, but we do also offer counselling remotely, either through remote meetings or by telephone. So if you or anyone you know feels that they could do with some support for their mental health, get in touch with us at Buchan Counselling. So that's the end of this episode of the HuggCast. That was the end of episode 9. Now, if I survive long enough, the next episode will be our double-figure episode, episode 10. So watch out for that coming up soon. In the meantime, stay safe, take care of each other, and bye.
The Huggadrum HuggCast is a production by Huggadrum in collaboration with Hand-Picked Drums and BuchanCounselling.com.